Welcome to the Smart Dating Academy podcast. I'm Bela Gandhi, the founder of Smart Dating Academy and your host. I started Smart Dating Academy in 2009 because I had this crazy knack of giving people dating advice that actually worked, that I took. I've been married for almost 25 years, and now my company helps people to date smarter and to find love. This podcast is meant to bring more love into your life, no matter where you are and what you do. And we're here to bring more life into your love. Smart daters, welcome back to this week's podcast. I know you're going to love today's guest as much as I do. I am so excited to have my new friend, Dr. Jeanne Michele, here with us today. She kind of does it all, y'all. Well, first of all, let's just say she's got a book called The Infidelity Cure. So let's just all pause and say, yes, we want to hear everything you have to say, but she's a relationship specialist, an author, a philosopher. She's got a doctorate in clinical psychology and so much more. Dr. Jeanne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Bella. I always love your energy, and I'm so happy that you invited me to be here today.
Well, I am really excited to talk to you. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got to doing this work, and then we're going to dive right in.
Okay. Well, first of all, about me, I grew up in the corporate world. You know, I worked for a very prestigious company, and I worked my way into human resources and training. And then I just started going back to school, and I just kept going back to school, got my master's in spiritual psychology, my doctorate from Pacifica Graduate Institute in Santa Barbara in clinical psychology. And then I jumped off the corporate gravy train and set up my own practice. And I just kept growing. I started out working with moms with postpartum depression. And out of that, there came the men that were having a tough time. Like, how do I support typically my wife, because she's going through something I really don't understand? And then out of that came the couples work. And so I love working with two people in the room, as well as just helping people get in touch with themselves. So I specialize in relationships. You know, either you're in one, you want to be in one, or the one you're in, you're kind of having some challenge with. And then there came a point in time where all these men showed up in my office, and they were men who had had affairs, who have said, oh my gosh, I may have just ruined my life and my relationship. Can you help? And that's how my book, The Infidelity Cure, was born. It was in holding the hands of these men and their spouses and helping them work through devastating heartbreak. So that's how the book was born. And then hopefully my next one I'm working on is called Loving Courageously, because the last third of the book is about how do you take your relationship from wherever it is, we all get stuck in patterns, to really creating relationships that thrive. And so that's what I'm leaning into next.
Well, tell me, I mean, to have men come in and say, I've ruined my life and I'm having an affair, and then to walk them through that process and then to help them with their spouses, like, what did you learn about the anatomy of affairs?
Oh, that's good. I actually have a chapter entitled The Anatomy of an Affair. So that's a perfect question.
Oh my goodness. We're vibing
There it
already.
goes. We're vibing together already. Affairs, what I say about the anatomy of affair, there are three stages. There's the beginning, the middle, and then it comes to a conclusion. And affairs, everyone gets hurt in affairs at some point in time. But the beginning is like, it's almost like there's some spark of connection with somebody. And there are these vulnerability factors that make it, they're not an excuse, because, the person who betrays needs to take 100% responsibility. But it's a time where someone connects with you. Someone connects with you in a way that helps you feel seen. I say people want to be known, noticed, and know they matter. I call them the 3 N's. So someone else shows up in your world, and sometimes you've had something go on in your relationship that sparks the impetus to connect with someone else. Sometimes it's something at work. There can be all kinds of things. But anyway, so at the very beginning, this person shows up and there's a connection and there's a spark, and sometimes it's, you connect immediately. Sometimes it occurs over time. But during that beginning stage, actually, there are times when your relationship at home, let's say if you're married, gets a little better because you're feeling a sense of aliveness. So that's the beginning, when it feels like those little sparks that, light up your world. Then there is the middle phase, which tends to be the longest, where reality starts creeping in. Because let's face it, an affair is a fantasy. You have this idea of, this person or this connection, but then, their lives start creeping in. Their wants for perhaps more of your time, the ability to maintain two separate lives. It starts getting messy. And so, and then there's the final stage where it really does intrude. And in the case of male infidelity, sometimes you have two women that, in the case of heterosexual relationships, that are really pulling on you, and it becomes so much. There are so many challenges in keeping it going. And then something happens. Either you decide you want to cut it off, or you get discovered, or, something happens to really break that. And the decision is made to pull away from that. Or you decide that, you'd rather be with this person. But I find most of the time, at least in the people that come to me, they decide they want to make things work with their spouse or significant other. So that was a long description of the anatomy of an affair. I don't know if anything stands out for you as far as, that issue or questions around that.
Well, it sounds like you get a good self-selecting cohort of people, right? If people just want to cheat and have an affair because it's exciting, they're not going to seek out somebody like you to help them through it, right? These are people that it sounds like they got sucked into something literally because they weren't feeling seen or known, or they were missing some sort of excitement, or they wanted to like revisit their youth and be adventurous. They were missing something inside of them, but then they realized, oh my gosh, I'm about to blow up my life and I don't want to blow up my life. And then they come to you. So do you find that people's marriages can withstand the affair and potentially get better, worse? What has been your experience?
Not only withstand it, they can get better. What happens is, an affair, like any crisis, when it shows up, it's right in your face. And you have to pay attention. You have to put all the other things aside, like we're too busy at work, the kids have a lot of sports going on, I'm distracted, I don't have time. When that shows up, and the people who come into my office are devastated by the amount of pain that their partner is experiencing. And it's like 911 emergency, they need a tourniquet applied because they're bleeding. So I think that's a piece of it. It pulls both people front and center. If you are the spouse or the partner that has been betrayed, it's a chance for you to take a look at too. Where was I swallowing my voice? Where wasn't I speaking up? Where wasn't I taking care of me? So while the responsibility, I believe the one who betrayed has to take 100% responsibility for what happened, because no matter what the factors were that contributed, they made the choice. Even though they sit in my office and say, what the heck was I thinking? I don't know. Yeah. So they have to face that. And then the other person needs to look at their life. And so as couples begin to do that, as individuals and as partners, they can really recommit to themselves. But it's going through the pain of having the conversations that are very difficult to have. And when they decide and they commit to doing that, I've seen couples really strengthen their connection, especially when they may not have been paying as much attention, and they decide, oh my gosh, we do love each other, but you have to create a sense of safety again, because that sense of safety and trust has been broken. And that's one of the hardest pieces.
There are people, Jeanne, that are listening to this podcast that have been brutally betrayed and their significant other bailed out, ditched out, whatever it is, and they find themselves single again, not by their own volition, not because they wanted this to happen. What would you tell this person listening?
I would tell you, if this is you, that yes, it's devastating, and you're sitting with the heartbreak, and I'm not suggesting you ignore that, but try to give it a space and a time for you to feel it and simultaneously connect with someone you really trust, a really good friend you can talk to, a coach, counselor, therapist that helps you sort through things. And ultimately view this as your opportunity to get back in touch with something that you somehow have lost along the way. And again, where have you betrayed yourself and not taken a stand for who you are, what you want? This could be a great time to go back to school, to take a course, to do something creative. You know, you used to play guitar or piano, get back into yourself and the essence of who you are. And yes, it's heartbreaking. Absolutely. There's no denying that. But then how can you shape that and shift that into showing up for yourself in a way that expands your heart and expands who you are? So yeah, and again, not denying that it's hard, but also viewing it through a different lens.
No,
What are
I
your
love
thoughts on that? Or how does that, sit with you as you're hearing me describe that?
Well, it sits with me perfectly well because we get a lot of people that have been on the side of betrayal where either they have decided, I don't want to deal with this anymore, or their partner has left. And I think that the people that come to us at Smart Dating Academy believe that the lid to their pot exists and they want healthy, lasting love. So I do believe that we have to have those conversations with ourselves and put the mirror to ourselves, not because we caused this. And I don't want any of you listening to say that we are saying this was your fault. It is not your fault. But I want you to put the mirror to yourself to say, how did I ignore red flags? Did I not seek out or say what I want? And what do I want and need this time around to have the best, most lasting and enduring love of my life? What do I
Bella,
need for that?
yes, I didn't mean to jump in on you,
No,
but
you're great.
this is exciting. I love what you're sharing because I also have a chapter to the woman who's been betrayed. And the very first thing I say is no matter what the circumstances were, it was not your fault. Because as women, it's like we tend to say, what did I do wrong? What did I miss? And sometimes there are things we ignored and it's important. Like I always had this feeling, but I was afraid to ask, or I asked and he lied. And so it's getting in touch with that, but no matter what, it's not your fault. And I love that you say that. And I love what you're sharing about the possibility that opens up, looking at where this connection maybe wasn't quite what you want in the future, thinking about what you had and who you are and how you want to step into connection first with yourself. I think you've got to be careful jumping in too soon to, you've got to find that person. I think one of the toughest parts when you split up, especially if you're married or in a long-term relationship, is sleeping in a bed alone. Not necessarily just the sex, but, like all of a sudden you had someone next to you and you don't. How do you reconnect and own who you are and own your power and own your purpose? And then bring that to the table as you're beginning to open up to, okay, what do I want next? And when you're ready for that, date. Don't relationship right away. Date. And people say, oh, I got to find a relationship. No, you need to date. You need to date multiple people because you're still figuring out who you are. And I believe in every dating connection, there's something you learn about yourself. Dating is a mirror to who you are. With this guy, you connect with these parts, or this doesn't work, or, oh, there's this little red flag, but he's really cute. He's really nice. No, pay attention to those flags this time around. see what shows up for you. And then ultimately, when you decide, you found someone that you want to go deeper with, pay attention to that too. So I like dating versus relationship.
And you're right. I think society points us to jump into things after 3 dates, love at first sight. Oh, my sister set me up with somebody. Like, I'm like, don't put your thumb on the scale and overweight personal setups. Those people don't know what that guy is like in a relationship, right? He may be a great dad, he may be a great colleague, he may be a great uncle. Does not mean that is the lid to your pot. And so really exploring slowly there, smart dating, we have rules, we have graphs, we have relationship trajectories on how we need to have a dating funnel, right? I want
like that.
you to date multiple people, and
Yes.
dating means getting to know people. It doesn't mean hooking up with, sleeping with all these people. Ladies, especially, remember, oxytocin is your superpower, right? As soon as you go into orgasm, and even for some women it's making out, you're giving that attachment to someone who might not deserve you. So look at this as your superpower and know thyself. Okay. And
I
know
love
if
it.
you get attached really quickly, just keep, have your dates be walks, have them be coffees, go on hikes, go bowling, stay out of each other's houses, but don't get into, I like what you say, dating versus relationshiping, right? It's like you're not getting out there to just jump into a relationship. Tell me your definition of dating versus relationshiping. I think we're on the same platform.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page too. And I love what you say about the lid to the pot. That sounds like that's one of the things that you talk about when you talk about connecting with somebody. Dating, you have to date multiple people. You have to date multiple people. If there's anything, oh, I went out with this guy and he's great. Awesome. Who else are you going out with? Who else are you going out with? You have to go out with multiple people because it is easy to get attached, especially when someone, quote unquote, love bombs you. Oh, I've never met anyone like you and you're awesome. And when someone says, I love you too soon after 2 or 3 dates, I want to say run. Because they don't know you. They don't know you. They've just got this version of you, like you've got this version of them. And like you say, culturally, we've got this, oh, I knew the very first date. Maybe you might have had an impression, but until you get to know them, that impression either increases and you see the behaviors and actions matching the feeling, or they don't. We've got to be so careful, So relationshiping is when you're like, okay, you know what? You both have the conversation. You do not assume, oh, he's really nice. I don't think he's seeing anyone else. It's like, no, 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 no. You talk about it. Do we want to take this to the next place? Which, if you're somebody who wants to be in a monogamous relationship, because everybody gets to choose, you have the conversation and both people, what do you think about this? We've been going out for a little while and, would you like to be exclusive? Should we be exclusive? What does exclusivity look like?
Oh, girl, I have a definition of exclusivity.
Okay,
Get a
love to
piece of
hear it.
paper and a pen, dear listener, because exclusive means a couple of things to me at Smart Dating Academy.
Okay,
It
all right.
means you are exclusive. Your relationship has a title. It could be boyfriend, girlfriend. It could be girlfriend, whatever it is, you do you. But I like titles because titles lend clarity. Number two, it means you are off the apps. Nobody's still on the apps, right? When you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you're off the dating apps, and it means you are monogamous with each other. That to me is what an exclusive relationship looks like. I have people that come to me to do sessions. They're like, well, we're not dating other people, but we don't have a title yet. I'm like, why? And they look at me sometimes like I have 3 heads. I'm like, this is how you should think about. And what does this mean? It means you're taking good care of yourself to make good decisions, because clarity is everything here. And let's take this and jump into self-betrayal. How do we betray ourselves in the process, right? Sometimes by not using our voice. Tell us about this.
Right, right. So I think that, self-betrayal, we do it all the time. I think when you've got this little inkling, oh, I'm feeling this way, or oh, I want to talk about this, but oh, I don't know if he's ready, or oh, I don't know if I should. And then you start shrinking and you start not showing up in your full self. When you're dating, it really is your opportunity to put you out there and see if it's a match. And we betray ourselves when we don't do that, when we start walking on eggshells, where we're more concerned about, is he going to call me again? I need to, when we start tiptoeing around. No, I love what you're saying about you have this framework,
Yes.
for what does this mean to be exclusive? You have the courage to have the conversation, because when you start betraying yourself, you know it, you feel it, you start obsessing over things, and you don't speak your voice. The time to speak your voice is at the beginning, because as you really get involved with someone and you really love them, it can get harder. Clarify, clarify, clarify. I love that. And as you move forward, you both are deciding. It's not that, oh, I hope he picks me if you're a woman, or if you're a guy, you know what? Wow, she's really cool. I hope she picks me. No, it's both of you have to decide. It's a mutual thing, because otherwise, the relationship is lopsided. And, so did that help with the self-betrayal? More that you want to go into about that?
Absolutely. And it really is. And we work on this, Dr. Jeanne, with our clients in our one-on-one practice, right?
Mhm.
It is, and we're in the weeds with people, okay? We
Yeah.
put people, we give them our framework. We teach them about high GPQs, good partner qualities, how
Right.
we're going to date, how we're going to have the funnel. But then it's not like, oh, bye. Then it's like having a personal trainer for your love life. And we're in the apps with people. We have dating scorecards. We're listening to how to date 3 go. And while they're letting other people in, we're helping them message in the app. So it's really comprehensive. But one of the things we really focus on from the beginning is using your voice. Right? If somebody looks great on an app and you're like, oh, he or she's really cute, and they say all these great things, but it says, I'm just looking for short-term fun, ask the question, hey,
Right.
I'm here and I'm looking for the lid to my pot, a long-term enduring relationship. You say you're looking for short-term fun. Are we on the same page or not? Use your voice. Have the courage to say what's on your mind. You will never go wrong if you say it from a place of love and from a place of personal power. You'll be so
Yes.
proud of yourself. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, courage favors the bold.
But and you have to, because again, especially at the beginning, and look inside of yourself at those places where you're hesitant, at those places where you're afraid, and be bold enough that you go past those places. You don't have to do, I always say, kind and direct. You don't have to blow someone away and start saying you. It's like, this is what I'm looking for. Let's see if we're a match on this. This is what I would like in a partner. Does that work for you? You, I, you don't you. And it's but be direct. Be direct. You don't have to be all coy and, because that doesn't do anything to create connection. It creates a false connection. And you're in a fantasy. It's just like when you're in an affair. It's a fantasy. You want it to be really real. And I also work with people who are affair partners who tend to choose unavailable men, be they married, be they in another relationship, because where are you betraying yourself? And my message to that person is the same thing. What's going on inside of you? Where are you unavailable? Where are you afraid to be in a relationship commitment? Unless this is what you want, people can choose. But if you're choosing, make sure it's a mindful choice. And you know what? You don't have to go after someone that is with somebody else, because I guarantee you it will be messy. I've also worked with people who have chosen to create a life with their affair partner and create a marriage. And I will tell you, it is damn hard, and not that, you find somebody else and you connect, but if you find somebody else and you want to connect and you're in a relationship, do it with integrity. Hey, I'm attracted to this other person. It hurts to have that conversation, but it hurts way more when you get found out that you're engaging in an affair instead of talking about what's going on. Because sometimes you can work through it and it's a wake-up call for both parties. And sometimes it's, that's people have found someone else. It's messy enough on its own. Don't make it more messy by not having the courage to talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. And if you're constantly seeking out married people to date and be in relationships with, ask yourself, why? Is it, well, then I don't have to deal with a relationship because I only want like weekend love, or I want to go on these lovely vacations. But you have to ask yourself, is this really enough for me? Or am I telling myself this is all I'm worth?
Right. And I love that. Am I telling myself that's all I'm worth? What is going on? Because people can go into that superficial of, no, it's fine. I'm not looking for something full time anyway, as they're falling in love with somebody else who is connected or married to somebody else. I mean, to take a step back and say, is this really what I want? Where are my values? What are my beliefs? What's my belief system? And betraying yourself is betraying your beliefs.
Amen. Say that
You
again
have
for
to
the
look
people in the back.
Betraying yourself is betraying your beliefs. When you go against your core values, it does something inside of you. It creates a little bit of this ick factor that can grow inside and shrink you so that you're not standing in your power. You want to be with somebody who loves you and wants you to soar. And if you want to go back to school, they support it, not, if you go back to school, it's going to be taken away from our time together. Yes, that might be true, but you know what? If this is something you're passionate about, how can I support you? Those are supportive relationships. Not, do you want crumbs? Do you want part-time? And I like what you said too about deservability. Where am I feeling like I don't deserve to connect with somebody? Oh, there's no available man, or those are stories.
Yeah.
And I would imagine you speak to that in this Smart Dating Academy, as far as letting go of the stories, the blah, blah, blah that we hear all the time.
Every period, single period, day period, we're talking about the stories I tell myself. And I think, the story that I want you, dear listener, to walk away with is love is out there for you. It's a when, it's not an if. And if this conversation has resonated with you, right? Have you betrayed yourself? Have you relationshiped too fast versus dating, right? Have you accepted crumbs? Have you dated people that are misaligned with your values? Are you jumping into things too fast? Are you ignoring red flags? And if the answer to any of these is yes, help is out there. Don't struggle on the struggle bus by yourself, right? It feels like you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean at midnight with no life vest on and the waves are coming at you. Guess what? There's a lifeboat. There are many lifeboats. Find something or someone that can throw you the rope and give you a hand with that, because there's a lot of help out there. You can go to a therapist.
Yes, and we all need help from time to time. And I want to go back to just a minute for dating. People are like, oh God, I've got a date. Make it an adventure. I like ABC, always be curious. When you're with somebody, find something about them you're curious about. This is another human being that is sitting in front of you that is looking to connect. Be curious about them. See what shows up. Just take it as I'm going on an adventure, and then I'm going on another adventure. Have some fun with it. And if you absolutely don't connect, that's fine. Be honest about that too. Don't just ghost somebody. It's like, I really appreciate our time together when you do the follow-up, but I don't think that we're an exact match, and I wish you well. Don't just not answer their texts or call them back. Be in integrity. And, have fun. Find a place where you can have fun with your dates. I love what you're saying too about go for a coffee, go for a bike ride, go for a walk. You don't have to go. I think on a very first date, you don't go out to dinner because it could be that, you're not ready to spend an hour or two with that person. Dinner for a first date.
Yeah, no, just keep it short and sweet, right? Video is great, ladies and gentlemen. You know me.
Mhm.
Video is a great first date. And yes, it
Mhm.
counts as a date. And there you're protecting your time. Time is one of your biggest commodities in life, right? Every day we're given 1,440 minutes, right? What are we going to do with those? And you get to put boundaries around those and to see if somebody is going to earn an in-person date with you. So use video. Don't tell me, oh, I'm an in-person person, I'm so much better. No, that just means, remember, are you violating your own boundaries? Value your time. Why would you want to show up and be disappointed by somebody who doesn't look like their pictures or just doesn't behave like you had built a fantasy around?
Right. And be careful. There also can be, if you're not doing video, having conversations on the phone that, it's really deep and you live a little bit far away and you really get to know that, you feel like you know that person, but you're not seeing them in person. You can also build a fantasy of who they are that doesn't play out when you connect visually or when you connect in person. So you got to be careful. And I like that it feels like you have kind of a protocol. Maybe you talk on the phone first, maybe you do a video date. I like that. And get an impression.
Totally.
And then when you hold that inside of yourself, that even if they're like, oh, let's just meet, I'd love to take you for dinner. I like to slow down the process. I like to, we'll talk on the phone and then we'll do a little bit of a video and then we'll go for coffee. That helps me to really decide, that helps us to really discover if we're a match. And people appreciate that because you are saying, I value me. And that helps other people value you when you value yourself.
Amen. And if you suggest video and somebody says, I'm not a video person, guess what? They've just already disrespected your boundary. And then it's okay to say, oh my gosh, well, goodness, that's a flag. I'm going to bless and release this person.
I like bless and release. It's kind of like with fish, catch and release. I like bless and release.
Bless and release. Bless and release. You know what? You'll make somebody else happy. You're not my guy. You're not my girl. That's fine. So, Dr. Jeanne, you've been amazing. Is there any last gem that I haven't asked you about that you want to leave your listener with?
Talked about courageous curiosity. Really, really be aware when you feel like you're betraying yourself. Authenticity, I think that's so important because you don't want them to get to know this fake version of you that you're trying to put on. Of course, you've got your best foot forward. Of course, you're going to make sure that you dress and it's exciting to go on a date, but also be authentic. If, for example, in this world today, we are so politically polarized. If you have a very strong political affiliation or belief and someone is talking and they're the opposite, be authentic. Yeah, no, I'm not sure this will work for me, or this is how I feel. Don't just say, oh, okay, yeah, great. Be yourself, because for someone to love you, they need to see you, and vice versa. And then the other, we talked about dating versus relationshiping. I think those are our three. Have the courage to love, have the courage to put yourself out there. It takes a lot of courage to date and date well.
I totally agree. And you have been amazing. Thank you so much for being on our podcast, Dr. Jeanne. And for those of you who need some courage, reach out, schedule a session with me, schedule a session with somebody from my team. You're worth it. Okay. It's not worth doing the same thing over and over again, hour after hour, decade after decade. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you're vibing with us, then you're worth it. You're worth the investment in getting the help around something that you need. There is no reason on God's green earth that you need to feel like you were floating around in the Atlantic with no life vest on at midnight, right? Reach out. We've got the rope for you. So email us, go to smartdatingacademy.com, fill out a contact form, and we are always here for you. Dr. Jeanne, thank you again for having been on our podcast, and I can't wait for our next conversation.
I look forward to it. I think there's a lot of ways that we're in sync and a lot of ways that we work, similarly. And I look forward to having another conversation with you whenever you want to. You're a delight. Thanks, Bella.
Thank you.